The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. It's time for Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. We'll talk all things Hokie wrestling with Coach Tony Robie and staff. Now, let's join your host, Hall of Fame wrestling writer and broadcaster, Jason Bryant.
Episode 79 of Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling coming up with a big homestand against Cornell and the University of Virginia. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what happened down in Chapel Hill, and we'll talk about the upcoming chatter that's going to be all over the message boards and Twitter. That's why I had to close Twitter before we started with the RPI and the coaches ranking. But to do all that, we'll be joined by head wrestling coach Tony Robie. Coach Robie, the last 15 minutes says before we get to start this thing, the RPI, the coaches rank comes out. Everybody's scrambling. People are flocking to message boards and Twitters. Basically, your initial first gut reactions to the coaches ranking and RPI, the first RPI that's come out.
Well, I haven't had a ton of time to look through it, but I have looked at it briefly, and I don't know that there's a ton of shockers in there for us. It's kind of what I expected. So, I guess good in that sense. We have a couple guys that aren't eligible for the RPI yet, and Mitch Moore, David McFadden, and Billy Miller, so they're not showing up in there, but they will. They'll get to their 17 matches, and overall, it's about what I expected.
And this is relevant because, again, you hit two of the three standards with the RPI, the coaches rank. The other is win percentage. That will qualify a bid for the conference. All three, you hit the gold standard. Two of the three, you hit silver. Those are what's going to qualify allocations. And then if you hit one of those are bronze standard, which also goes to factor in with the at-large bid. So right now, as it stands, you really kind of want to look at that 28 and above number to see if you've got two of those three in the RPI and the coaches rank. And right now, we got Ryan Blees sitting at number 29. So that is kind of the fringe, because that's the 28, 29 mark is usually where they cut it off. So, as we get to this point in the season with his record 12-11, this stretch run's crucial for him for qualifying a bid for nationals.
It is, yeah. We knew that, he didn't wrestle well early in the season, and I don't think his record reflects where he's at currently in terms of, how he's wrestling and competing. But the good thing is he's got some opportunities to bring that up, and in particular next weekend against NC State, he'll wrestle Oliver, who is ranked very high in the country. So Ryan's lost a couple really close matches against Duke, Fine Silver, and then against Austin O'Connor at UNC. Again, and both those guys are ranked in the top 5 or 6 in the country. So hopefully things, Ryan gets a W and can secure a spot for the ACC at 149. Otherwise, he's going to have to go in there and steal one from somebody.
We're looking at this procedure was put into place 2006, 2007, that range. I know in 2008 they did a test run with the data. They didn't actually subscribe to it that year. It was put into place officially 08-09 season. It was a lot of talk about it. People still don't really understand in some respects on what an RPI is. I will say if you go and you're a basketball fan and you hear the term RPI, basically they understand what an RPI is. Wrestling, it's still kind of new to us. Why is the number one ranked guy not number one in the RPI? That doesn't necessarily mean he's wrestled the toughest of schedules. So just so you wrestling fans who are unfamiliar with how an RPI works, it is not a ranking of how good you are. It is a ranking of your opponent's record and your opponent's record to kind of give you, say, okay, are you beating guys that are 5-15 all year, or are you wrestling guys that are 18-1? So that being said, the last 10, 12 years of this, Coach Robie, how have you reacted to it, responded to it, and scheduling changed through it versus how you think other coaches have adapted and you basically reacted to it?
Well, I think first and foremost, when the whole qualifying system changed, from when they used to use historical data. I think it was like the previous 4 years historical data, and that would determine the number of qualifiers for your conference. So when myself and Coach Dresser came into Virginia Tech for the 2007 season, they were still under that system, and the ECC at that particular time had 14 qualifiers. So when they moved to this new system and things changed, it was really one of the factors that helped the ACC kind of emerge as from a conference that certainly wasn't at the level that it is now, and to what it's grown into now, and having a bunch of teams that are in the top 15, top 10, and getting trophies at the NCAAs. It was very difficult to recruit when your conference was only taking 14 guys, so you had to win the ACC championship. If you didn't win, you had to count on receiving one of 4 wild cards, which was voted on by the coaches immediately after the ACC tournament. So, that thing got a little bit ugly too with the voting, and it was, tough for people to know that they were going to have opportunities to get to the ACC championships. If you were in a weight class, you had a guy like Devin Carter at your weight, you probably weren't going to win the ACCs, and then you're counting on receiving one of 4 wild card spots. So the new qualification system and how they determine it, I think has been really, really good. I know it's been really, really good for Virginia Tech and for the ACC conference in general. So I'm a huge fan of the way they're doing things now. I think it's about as fair a way to determine, qualifiers and get guys in the NCAAs. And it's not perfect. There's always maybe 1 or 2 guys at a weight class that may have a complaint, but it's certainly a heck of a lot better than it used to be. So it's been great for the sport of wrestling, in my opinion.
Yeah, the only drawback, I think, to athletes with it is if you're shifting weights and you make a weight change late in the year and you have a bad tournament, you're SOL. So that's one thing that you do risk it when you shift weights during the season. But, there's also back in the day you would try to game the system. Whereas, I remember in the old CAA, which was, a conglomerate of the old CAA plus the East Coast Wrestling Association, before everybody is dispersed into other conferences. There were coaches that were looking at a weight class knowing, let's use Ben Askren for an example. Everybody was running from 74. In theory, so, okay, we'll throw 4 qualifiers at that weight class because it gives us a better chance to have more wrestlers in the round of 12 so we can get an extra bid in the future. All the while, they leave a guy who ends up being an eventual NCAA finalist home because he was 3rd behind 2 All-Americans at the weight class. So a lot less backroom, and legitimately, it was backroom politics in some of these seating meetings. It was crazy. One year, I think the West region sent 9-21 Caleb Flores from UNI as a wild card. Those days are over. The only reason you're getting into the tournament at 9-21 is if you have a good weekend and you qualify through your tournament.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, some of those wild card meetings, but there was definitely a lot of whatever you want to call it going on, and there was a lot of cronyism going on, and people were voting for their buddies, and so it wasn't fair to the athletes, to be quite honest with you, in my opinion. You're basing their chances of getting to the NCAAs on what happened the previous 4 years when they may have been in high school in a lot of cases. So just using current year data is really has fixed a lot of problems with the system.
It's also encouraged, and granted, there's a lot of chat right now about people ducking and protecting seeds and things like that, but it also encourages you to wrestle a better schedule and get better D1 competition because that RPI is a component, whereas wrestling a guy ranked number 1 in the country might give you an L on your record, but it's not going to hurt you in the RPI component.
Right. Yeah. And, and then obviously if you want to have success at the NCAA tournament, you better get tested during the season too, first and foremost. So, but I agree on all fronts, from a scheduling standpoint, it makes sense to wrestle, a balanced schedule and make sure that you're going out and you're seeing a lot of the top guys in the country. So, that really hasn't been an issue for us, especially with the ACC getting as good as it is right now. The competition within the conference is gotten significantly better. So you're seeing a lot of guys that are ranked high in the country in conference duels and at the conference meet.
Yeah, with 6 teams in the ACC, sometimes there needs to be a 5th place match to determine a 5th guy to go. That's how deep the conference has gotten. A long way since that 14 qualifiers. I remember those years. Those were grim. If you had one, in the ACC and these smaller conferences back then, or what was considered a small conference. I mean, even though it is a Power 5 conference, one bad match ruins your season. Those days are gone.
Yeah, no doubt. It was a problem.
What isn't a problem is the knowledge you'll get. You'll love this segue at the NCAA Division I championships with the Matt Tuck Online Division I preview guide and Hokie Nation. You know it. You've got the promo code save $5, wrestlingpreviewguide.com/Hokie. That will take you right to the purchase page and have that discount already applied. Every stat, every score, every wrestler, team bio information, all the stuff that's going to make Tony Robie look like a genius coaching in the corner, you can find in this book. Maybe even help Ty Walls look a little bit better coaching as well. Jared Frayer, I think he's got it down with the ugly sweaters, but you're going to be just as smart as these coaches as they do their research, and the ESPN guys. WrestlingPreviewGuide.com/Hokie. Save by $5. That's my sales pitch. Now, on to the actual wrestling, Coach.
All right.
You like that radio spiel, don't you?
That was good. I think really what's going to make us look good as coaches is wins at the NCAA tournament and getting All-Americans and national champions. But the guide might help a little bit.
Yeah, well, you're going to at least outsmart the guy you're sitting next to who doesn't have it in all your little fantasy pick'em contests. Yeah, you're going to have a leg up on the competition. WrestlingPreviewGuide.com/Hokie. Now, the thing, I guess that's staring us right in the face is the loss to North Carolina. We had talked about things breaking it down. We saw it 5, Hokie's favored in 5, 2 where Carolina was favored, 3 toss-ups. It's almost exactly how we're seeing the Cornell duel. We'll explain that in a minute, but 18-14, couple things go wrong, couple overtime matches, perfect storm of bad things happening for Virginia Tech last week.
Yeah, I think the worst thing was our effort, to be quite honest with you. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it for the Hokie fans that watch the duel or were there to watch it live. It was an uninspiring effort by our team. And, ultimately UNC, got to give them a lot of credit. They were ready to compete, really up and down their lineup in a lot of places where we were not ready to compete and we were not ready to wrestle, and we certainly weren't ready to wrestle for 7 minutes. So, I'll take the blame, as far as that's concerned, not having our guys ready to compete. So it was disappointing, no doubt. And it wasn't even so much the loss that was disappointing, it was just how we competed. I felt like our effort wasn't, even close to where it needed to be. So, the exciting thing is we got an opportunity to go out and address that and hopefully make a statement about, kind of what we're all about as competitors tomorrow night against Cornell at 6 p.m. in Castle Coliseum. So, I'm excited to see how our team responds and how we compete tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a match where we felt like if we wrestled well, we could win and we could win handily. But, give UNC credit again. They've got a very good team and they're, finally getting all their guys back in there and, they deserve to win. There's no question about it.
Prevailing thought from a lot of the wrestling community is, these duels really, they matter, but they don't matter. I mean, we've got an ACC regular season championship that hangs in the balance. At this point, the best shot's looking for a share of the title, but overtime matches, tight matches, 1-point matches, losing late. How much do these performances within the setting of a duel kind of, rip at your heart and your head as a coach? I mean, how do you respond to, you talk about the lack of effort, but when the final score goes and you're just, okay, it's a duel meet, March, we got better things to worry about, but how does losing a duel meet in this manner really tear at you as a coach?
It was definitely frustrating. There's no question. I mean, for me and for our staff, the one area that we try to talk about a lot with the team is just giving great effort and competing hard, and we didn't do that, and that to me that was the biggest concern. I mean, I can deal with losing a dual meet, and I can deal with losing some individual matches. It just comes with the territory. But things kind of snowballed on us and got away from us, and we just didn't do what we needed to do, and we didn't wrestle. We didn't wrestle hard enough. We didn't wrestle smart enough in some situations. There's certainly some things that some calls didn't go our way, but, at the end of the day, we had plenty of chances and plenty of opportunities to win. All 6 of the matches we lost were determined late in the match, and to me, that's unacceptable as a coach, and it's unacceptable for our team to lose that many matches in that fashion. So, it's something that we talked about a lot and we've addressed, and hopefully our guys respond. Again, to me, it's about how you respond to adversity, and fortunately for us, we have another opportunity here this weekend against Cornell and against UVA, and both of those are going to be, highly contested matches.
Is it a situation we really haven't talked about how you stylistically talk to the athletes afterwards? So is there a moment that as a coach where you've just had to like sometimes blow up to fire guys? I mean, how do you flip the switch to get guys to start hey, you got to get better effort? Is it a fiery emotional speech? Is it basically that, look, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed kind of speech? I mean, how do you relate your frustration to these athletes as a coach?
I think I was very clear with my frustration to the team. I don't think I mixed any words. I think they knew exactly how I felt and exactly where I stood. And we talked about it, up and down the lineup individually, called some guys out. And, there was no gray area whatsoever at all. And it was not a great scene in the locker room in Chapel Hill after that match for the Hokies. We were upset. I think our entire coaching staff, and it was unfortunate. But definitely, I think our guys received the message. How they respond to that message, we'll find out here in about 24 hours. But the message was definitely received on last Friday night after the match, and it was received again on Sunday, when we reconvened as a team. So, like I said, throughout the course of the season, you're going to have some matches where maybe you don't perform as well as you want to, and hopefully this is the worst that we see this season.
What did you come away from the dual meet pleased with?
Joey Prada is starting to figure out how to win some matches. I liked the direction he's going. I mean, he's got a tough weekend in front of him this weekend for sure, but from where he was a month ago, I thought Joey's doing a good job getting his hand raised against guys that he has chances to beat. Love the direction that Ryan Belize is headed. He lost on a hands to the face call, which, I didn't agree with late in the match. I think there was less than 10 seconds left in the match and it was tied 1-1 and then we got called for hands to the face. That against the 4th ranked kid in the country. So from where Brian was a month ago, he's definitely trending in the right direction. Now we got to go, figure out he's getting into the guy's legs, and we got to convert those into takedowns. I think Zach Savatsky went out and majored the number, 10 or 12 ranked guy in the country. Zach's really offense is hitting on all cylinders right now. So, those were some positive takeaways from the match from some individuals, I thought. I mean, there were other ones too, but, those are the ones that really stuck out to me.
Moving forward, got number 9 Cornell, number 22 Virginia coming into Blacksburg this weekend. Of course, the first one Friday at Castle, 6 p.m. against Cornell, coming in ranked 11-2. This one, as I kind of alluded to earlier, Cornell heavily favored 2 weights. You got 3 toss-ups. You got Tech probably favored at 5, but that was kind of the same math we had last week. The big difference is here is where Cornell is favored. They've got some serious hammers. Vitaly Aruzha, since he's moved down to 125, he's undefeated at the weight class. He's 19-1 overall. His only loss on the season is to his teammate Chaz Tucker, who's the 133-pounder, ranked 14th in the country. And then 141 pounds, Yanni Diakomahalis, returning national champion. So right off the bat, should you start at 125? That's kind of a murderer's row that Cornell has right off the bat. And is it more about weathering the storm there, limiting the damage, or, how do you come out with a 1-2-3 punch like that Cornell's going to throw at you?
Well, we just got to be ready to wrestle. Obviously, I think especially at 25, Joey's got his work cut out for him. But we're going to game plan as much as possible and make sure we're ready to go. I know that guy's cutting a fair amount of weight, so I think Cornell's been drawing in a lot of their matches, so they're probably going to want to draw. But I think for our guys, one of the lessons hopefully that we took away from UNC is you can't let the match before you or, 2 or 3 matches before you affect you emotionally when you step on the mat. So we've got to make sure that every guy in our team just worries about taking care of their job, regardless of what's happened prior to them stepping on the mat. So, you really don't have any control over what happens with your teammates. And we definitely didn't do a good job of that at UNC, and I think things snowballed. So I think from a mentality standpoint, our guys have to just worry about themselves and really the 7 minutes, and give an unbelievable effort for the 7 minutes or longer that they're going to be on the mat. So, we can't really get too caught up into which weight class we start at and who we have to face and the matchups right off the bat. Each individual needs to worry about themselves and take care of their own business.
3 matches that we've got as toss-up, of course, Chas Tucker, Corbin Myers by rankings. You're looking at 11 and 14. I also see the match at 157. Adam Santoro from Cornell he's been coming on of late in BC. Of course, tale of 2 wrestlers, which one shows up. Also think a toss-up at 197. Ben Hannes, who is right off a win over previously undefeated Patrick Brucky at 197 pounds, and Tom Slay, who, coming off that upset loss to Brandon Whitman. So those are a couple of the toss-ups that I'm looking at. And, keys to those matches. Let's start with BC.
BC needs to go out and be aggressive, and he needs to go out and do what he's good at. He's a big, strong, physical guy, and he needs to go after guys more and believe in his attacks, and I think he's gotten a little gun shy just because he's gotten scored off of a lot based on, from his own attacks from guys defensively. So, but I think to me the biggest thing for BC is just being aggressive and going out and going after guys and trying to take the win. When he does that, and that's what he did at the Virginia duels when he was wrestling really, really well and was working to get to the positions where he's good at. So spent a lot of time with BC this week, just working on some technical things that I think can help him. Met with him individually and just talked about his mindset and what the way he needs to approach these matches when he steps out there. BC's a strong, physical, aggressive guy, and he's kind of gotten away from that a little bit.
Couple matches that are also of intrigue. Brandon Womack, an All-American 2 years ago, now up at 174. Dave McFadden, so 2 All-Americans mixing it up there. And interestingly enough, 165, having spent the summer in Trnava, Slovakia, we've got a junior world champion in freestyle in Makai Lewis and a junior world silver medalist in Greco and Andrew Berryessa set to do battle at 165. One of those you want to talk about a contrast of styles. You can't get any more different in wrestling than these two.
Yeah, watching some video on Berryessa, he comes out hard. He works really hard the first period, the first couple minutes of the match to get to the offense and get to the positions that he wants to be in. He likes to wrestle from underhooks. He likes to force some upper body stuff, really get you to positions where you're not comfortable. So Makai's going to have to do a good job, and I feel like, Makai's I'm confident in his ability to stay away from where Berryessa is good and get to his legs and wrestle his match. But you certainly have to be aware of what he does, where he wants to be, and what he's good at. So it'll be an interesting matchup. I mean, we watched the duel against Princeton, and he went out and he goes for it. He tries to throw you to your back. He tries to make it a Greco match as much as he possibly can, and that's smart wrestling. You got to wrestle in the positions that you're good and that you want to be in, and try to make guys as uncomfortable as possible.
I just love it from a Team USA standpoint that we've got guys representing programs like Virginia Tech and Cornell on the international scene and winning medals. So that, as a Team USA guy, that really kind of makes me happy. And finally, another matchup of All-Americans, Max Dean and Zach Zavatsky. Zach Zavatsky ranked as high as number 2 in the various rankings. You talked about how well he's been wrestling, but, Max Dean, I mean, the family bloodline, they're all kind of similar, tough, brawling type of hard guys to score on.
Yeah, they've wrestled a couple times. I think they wrestled at Vegas last year and then again at Vegas this year, and Zach's won twice, both close matches. Zach's got to be ready to go. I mean, Dean's going to work hard to get to his underhook, and that's where he wants to be. And, Zach wants to be, I think, wrestling from some loose ties and moving his feet and, probably staying on the outside a little bit more. And we got to stay away from where he's good and get to his legs and then work hard to keep that guy underneath us. So Dean's going to come out and he's going to come after you and he's going to wrestle hard. So Zach's got to be ready to go. I think he knows what to expect. I think Zach is, from an emotional standpoint, wrestling as well as he has and as calm and confident as he has been in his career. But consistency is what it's all about, and we need to continue to be consistent, and we can't have letdowns. And this poses a big challenge for him. I mean, he's got a tough guy that's obviously well coached and is going to come after you and wrestle you hard. So Zach knows what to expect, but we need to go out there and we need to get this guy reacting to us, get him on his heels, and get to our offense early in the match and stay on our offense. And I think if Zach can do that, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, and this is in that range that also ranking-wise you look at Cornell ranked 9th, but anywhere 8 through 15 are just like, throw them in a box, shake them up, and who's going to come out on top. That's what it's going to be this week. Now, going into Virginia, this is a back-to-back duel, so you got an extra pound on the way in against Virginia, which the last time you wrestled the Cavaliers, I mean, it was a bludgeoning, 37-5 to win the Virginia duels, a beatdown of epic proportions, which Hokie Nation likes to hear. Ranking-wise, they've got the hammer. Jack Mueller at 125. Otherwise, they're Jay Aiello at 197, who split matches with Tom Slay this year. So, what's the key to make sure that your team stays up and stays, basically doesn't avoid that letdown, win or lose against Cornell going into Virginia that following day at a facility with the Moss Arts Center where there may be a little bit added more pressure to perform?
Yeah, I think we have to forget about that match at the Virginia duels. Obviously, a lot of things went our way and we wrestled well, but it has no bearing whatsoever on our match on Saturday against Virginia. And, if we think just because we went out there and won 9 of 10 matches that it's going to be easy and it's going to happen again, we've got to be ready to go. The bottom line is when we step out there, that's got to be in the past, and we've got to be focused on, doing the same thing that we did and wrestling the same way that we did in Hampton, Virginia. And really, I think that was going out and getting after those guys and being aggressive and taking advantage of opportunities. And we won a few matches where we were losing there and we were able to get some pins. So, it's definitely going to be a different story in terms of, just the way things play out. I mean, if I would be shocked again if we went out and, I'm not saying we can't win 9 matches again, but, getting 2 pins and getting some bonus points and that kind of stuff is hard to count on every time you step out there. So, just got to be ready to roll, man, just like every other match, just like we need to be on Friday night against Cornell.
What's important about this weekend is after, there's only 2 weeks of competition prior to the ACC championships, these 2 duels, then NC State, February 22nd. I mean, where does the importance lie with this team? Is it make sure you're wrestling fine? I mean, is it focusing on technique, staying healthy? What is the overall, theme, I guess, for the next week going into NC State?
Well, we got to get through this weekend first. NC State, potentially could provide us the opportunity to share the ACC regular season championship, depending on the way things go with NC State and UNC this weekend. But we're not really looking ahead to that too much right now. We've got to focus on Cornell. We've got, 2 really tough opponents in front of us this weekend. So we're focusing on Cornell and then UVA, and we'll start thinking about NC State next weekend. And obviously there's a big rivalry there between us and NC State. And, we went back and forth the last couple of years, both at the ACC tournament and in the regular season. And, there's a lot of recent history between us and them. So, next week will be, something that we'll have to be ready for and prepared for. And they're coming off a tough loss against Pitt at home. So I'm sure that's going to refocus them kind of like we got refocused at UNC. So, again, we're just trying to get through this weekend before we focus too much on NC State and not look ahead.
Focus a little bit about Saturday's duel, the Moss Arts Center duel, this one against Virginia. Tickets still available, and what's it mean for you to go into the Moss Arts Center, something, ancient art meets modern art? I mean, this is a theme that's been pervading the last several seasons. What's it like for you to go in there each year and say, all right, this year it's going to be Virginia. That's the opponent.
Well, I think it's a pretty cool venue for us to wrestle in. I know our guys really enjoy it. I know our fans really enjoy it. Online ticket sales are closed. That we sold out online. There will be, I think 75 to 100 tickets available for walk up and for students. Students get in free with a Virginia Tech ID. So if you haven't received your tickets yet for the Moss Arts Center match on Saturday night, I encourage you to get there early and pick one up at the door. But Anyone who's been to a match there, anyone who's wrestled there knows that how unique the venue is. I think it's the most unique venue in all of college wrestling. So for us, it's just exciting to get over there and exciting to compete. And I think this year, just because we're wrestling UVA and they're our in-state rival and they're our rival, it adds a little more to it. It's an ACC dual meet, so we've got to get back in the win column over there this year. We lost to Missouri last year at the Arts Center, so hopefully we can turn that around and get back, get a W over there this weekend.
Of course, that ticket might be a little bit easier to get than NCAA tickets. Last update, what is the situation with the suite? You alluded to a suite tickets might be available. So for Hokie fans still trying to get into Pittsburgh, what are their options as far as you guys are concerned?
Good luck. I wish them the best of luck. Listen, if they're out there and they need tickets, shoot me an email. We may, if something comes available, we may have a few extras as we get down to the wire, but it's pretty doubtful. We've kind of went over this already. There's a lot of teams in this situation. We accommodated as many fans as we possibly could and tried to make as many people as happy. But at the end of the day, I mean, you can only, you can't get water from a rock and can only do so much. So it is what it is, and hopefully they can get some tickets on the secondary market. I do think that the prices are going down on the secondary market. I looked on StubHub the other day, and they were, I think, at $3,000 a couple weeks ago for a lower bowl ticket, and they're as low as, I think, $1,300 now, which is still pretty expensive. But it does seem like the price is going down a little bit. So as far as we're concerned, as far as the suite is concerned, it's pretty much those are all spoken for, and like I said, most of our tickets that we're allocating to fans and people that requested them were in the same boat. We pretty much spoken for all those tickets as well.
Yeah, I just want to know which team has probably been hit with the most requests. I would probably assume Pittsburgh, followed by Penn State, but it's the teams that are in proximity to Pittsburgh. But it's like I've gotten probably no less than 4 or 5 calls, emails, texts, probably every day. And I think it's even picking up in the last week. I got my allotment that I get to get as an NCAA staff member. And it's like, hey, what are you doing with those? And it's like, geez, man, it's like the piranha, the vulture, everything. It's crazy, but I don't have any more either. So folks out there, I cannot help you either. But anyway, next year I can help you because we'll have plenty here in Minnesota. But Tony Robie, final thoughts as we head in again to Cornell in Virginia, Castle Coliseum, Moss Arts Center here in our second to last dual meet weekend of the year.
This, to me, this weekend is all about how we respond to some adversity. And, we had some adversity last week. Things didn't go well. That's part of competing at high level Division I athletics. It's part of competing in wrestling. It's part of it's part of life. And to me, it's how we react to a disappointment and a performance where we didn't give even close to our best effort. I thought that's going to determine, I think, set us on a course for how we're going to finish this season out. So. Yeah, it's an opportunity as much as anything to go get back out there and, feel a lot better about yourself and feel a lot better regardless of the outcome when we step off the mat on Friday night against Cornell, who is obviously a huge challenge for us. But as much as it's a challenge, it's just a great opportunity for us to go out there, compete again, and start getting things going in the right direction and competing the way that we expect these guys to compete. So hopefully, I know the high school state tournament is this weekend in Virginia.
The 19 high school state tournaments. Something like that.
But I think there's only two, maybe 3 locations this year, which is a little bit better than it has been in the past. But there's one in Salem, Virginia, just up the road from us at the Salem Civic Center. We need as many Hokie fans as possible at Castle Coliseum tomorrow night. It is at 6 p.m. We typically go at 7, so just want to remind them of that. And then Saturday night at the Moss Arts Center at 7 o'clock, we'll have a post or pre-match chalk talk at 6:30. And then we'll have a post-match social on the 3rd floor of the Moss Arts Center immediately following the match. So hopefully we get as many Hokie fans out as possible rooting on our guys, and hopefully that we deliver a nice product and 2 W's for them this weekend.
Hokie fans, listen to Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling anywhere you go by subscribing on Apple Podcasts. Go to InsideVirginiaTechWrestling.com/iTunes, or you can get the exclusive Android or iOS apps by going to InsideVirginiaTechWrestling.com.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.